You have probably seen the videos. A fire consuming 8 floors of the Burj Al Arab, smoke rising from Palm Jumeirah in broad daylight, an airport terminal evacuating in real time, dust filling the air while passengers left everything behind and ran. And maybe you watched those videos from your couch or from a hotel room somewhere safe and thought, that looks bad, but Dubai has survived worse. Dubai always bounces back. That is the argument, and it is not wrong. Dubai has a track record of recovery that is genuinely hard to dismiss, but here is what that argument gets wrong. It treats this moment as a weather event, a storm that arrived, did some damage, and will eventually pass. It does not account for what was already eroding before the first drone ever crossed into Emirati airspace. It does not ask why the calculus that built modern Dubai, the deal that hundreds of thousands of people made with this city, was already beginning to crack. The exodus that is happening right now is real, but the darkness underneath it started long before February 28th, 2026. That is what this video is actually about. Dubai was the pitch. For decades, it worked like nothing else in the world. Zero income tax, year-round sun, an airport that connected you to everywhere in 7 hours or less, a government that was efficient, predictable, and completely uninterested in your personal life as long as you kept building. For an Indian software engineer in Bangalore, a British finance professional in rainy London, a Russian family looking to park capital somewhere stable, or a Nigerian entrepreneur wanting access to global markets without bureaucratic warfare, Dubai was the answer. The proposal was simple. Come here, earn more, spend less, save faster, and build the life you could not build at home. And for a long time, the math was undeniable. Dubai's millionaire population doubled between 2014 and 2025, reaching more than 81,000 according to Henley and Partners. In 2025 alone, an estimated 9,800 millionaires moved to Dubai, bringing $63 billion in wealth, more than any other city in the world received that year. Luxury real estate had grown for 5 consecutive years. 500 properties sold for more than $10 million in 2024, compared to just 30 in 2020. The airport handled more international passenger traffic than any other airport on Earth. The hotel rooms filled. The restaurants had waiting lists. The skyline kept going up. This was not a mirage. The growth was documented, verifiable, and for a specific tier of resident and investor, genuinely transformative. That matters because the story that follows is not about a fake city that was always hollow. It is about a real city that built its entire operating model on a single assumption that turned out to be fragile. That assumption was safety. And not just physical safety. The deeper kind, the certainty that nothing unpredictable would happen. That was the product, and that product is now broken. But this is the part of the story people are not telling you, because the product was already developing fractures years before the first explosion. Here's where the numbers get uncomfortable. According to Mercer's Cost of Living City ranking released in June 2025, Dubai ranked 15th most expensive city in the world for international employees. That was up 3 places from the previous year. It was the costliest city in the entire Middle East. Not by a little, by a significant margin. At the same time, Cooper Fitch, a Dubai-based recruitment agency that surveyed business leaders from more than 1,000 organizations, projected average salary increases across the United Arab Emirates for 2025 at 0%. Flat. No growth. In a city where housing costs rose by an average of 16% in the 12 months to December 2024, according to Matthew Green, head of Middle East and North Africa research at CBRE. 16% rent inflation meeting 0% salary growth is not a data anomaly. And it is a structural squeeze running in real time. A 1-bedroom apartment in a city center location cost on average 8,700 dirhams per month in early 2026. That is approximately $2,369 every month, or just over $28,000 per year, solely for a 1-bedroom apartment. For a 3-bedroom, that number jumped to 16,541 dirhams, or approximately $4,504 monthly. And that was before private school fees, which ranged from 12,500 dirhams at the lower end to 150,000 dirhams per year at the top. Trefor Murphy, chief executive of Cooper Fitch, explained the salary compression mechanism precisely. He told The National that despite 5 to 6% annual population growth, the skills of new arrivals do not match what employers actually need. His observation was pointed. Dentists were coming to the United Arab Emirates to work as real estate agents. When employers have access to people willing to take jobs 3 levels below their qualifications, there is no market pressure to raise wages for anyone. The consequence is that a growing supply of talent is creating downward pressure on what that talent earns, while the city they are arriving in gets more expensive every quarter. The UBS Global Real Estate Bubble Index, published in September 2025, identified Dubai as having the 5th highest bubble risk among 21 major cities studied globally, ranking behind only Zurich and Los Angeles. And Fitch Ratings, before the conflict began, had already predicted a correction in Dubai real estate in late 2025 and into 2026, with prices potentially falling as much as 15% in certain segments. None of that was in the promotional brochure. Then came February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launched strikes against Iran, and Iran's response landed in Dubai. What followed was not the kind of crisis that could be managed with a press release. On that Saturday morning, a drone struck the Fairmont The Palm Hotel on Palm Jumeirah. Footage verified by Bellingcat showed it was a direct impact, not debris from an interception as Dubai's media office initially characterized it. The fire at the Burj Al Arab extended approximately 30 meters in height across approximately 8 floors of the building, according to the same Bellingcat analysis, which noted the damage appeared far more significant than officially described. Dubai International Airport was struck on March 1st. Terminal 3 was evacuated while dust filled the air and passengers abandoned luggage and ran. The airport sustained what the Dubai media office called minor damage, but the footage told a different story and 4 staff members were injured in the incident. The port of Jebel Ali, Dubai's main sea terminal and one of the busiest in the Middle East, caught fire. Dubai's 2 main airports were disrupted. International airlines suspended flights. The Dubai International Financial Center, home to regional operations for Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, and Standard Chartered, went quiet as major banks ordered employees to work from home. The iconic building that houses BlackRock, Bank of America, JP Morgan, Ernst & Young, and BNP Paribas, designed by Foster and Partners and usually filled with the sounds of a working financial capital, was empty. By March 5th, Dale Buckner, chief executive of security firm Global Guardian and a former Green Beret, told reporters that his firm had 7 corporate clients, including large finance and consulting firms, already planning to evacuate between 1,000 and 3,000 employees. Jim Crane, a fellow at Rice University's Baker Institute, framed what was happening in the clearest terms anyone offered. He said, "The city cannot function if everyone with a foreign passport flees. Dubai will literally shut down. Dubai is more exposed to the risks of an expat exodus." The conflict did not create Dubai's vulnerability. It named it. The impact of what happened was not uniform. It never is. 3 populations were living through 3 completely different crises inside the same city limits. For the ultra-wealthy, the story is the one you might expect, which is that short-term disruption rarely destroys long-term positioning at the top of the market. Prime locations, downtown Dubai, Palm Jumeirah, Dubai Marina, retain structural value that mid-market neighborhoods cannot. The 237 centimillionaires in Dubai, those worth $100 million or more, and the at least 20 billionaires according to Henley and Partners, are not shopping for 1-bedroom apartments in Jumeirah Village Circle. A 15% correction in mid-tier apartments does not meaningfully alter their balance sheet. Some are leaving, some are watching, some are quietly buying. For this group, the word escape is not quite right. It is reallocation. Only for the mid-level professional, the calculus collapsed suddenly, but the math had actually been tilting for 2 years. A British marketing executive, a German finance analyst, a Brazilian tech lead who moved to Dubai in 2022 or 2023 because the numbers made sense, because the tax-free salary in the early pandemic years stretched far and life felt genuinely affordable, that person had already been watching their purchasing power erode since 2023 without a corresponding salary increase. The conflict did not create their problem. It accelerated it past the point of tolerance. Glenn Pawson, managing partner of marketing agency M3, who moved to Dubai in 2025, described the experience to CNBC as a strange mix of normality and quiet tension. He said the city was surprisingly easy to live in almost normally, until phone alerts told people to take shelter. That framing, almost normal, captures exactly the psychological weight being carried by a resident class that invested real-life decisions in this city and now lives inside that almost. For the construction worker from Nepal, the taxi driver from Pakistan, the domestic worker from the Philippines sending remittances home every month, the vulnerability was different and older and harder. 3 of the 12 confirmed deaths from Iranian strikes in the United Arab Emirates as of April 2026 were migrant workers from Pakistan, Nepal, and Bangladesh. There were reports documented by multiple media outlets of pets being abandoned in the streets by fleeing residents, tied to poles, or left in the desert. Local veterinarians were overwhelmed. This detail sounds trivial compared to the macro numbers. It is not. It is a precise illustration of how abruptly a certain class of resident concluded that the calculation had changed. Pets take time to arrange. People who abandon them have made very fast decisions. Dubai's operating system runs on approximately 90% foreign residents. When that population leaves, not all of it, but enough of it, what remains is not a city that has lost some residents. It is an economic mechanism that has lost its operators. Here is what the official narrative does not say out loud, which is that the vulnerabilities being exposed now were documented, named, and to some extent knowable before February 28, 2026. The conflict is the accelerant. The fuel was already there. The real estate development pipeline tells a specific story. In 2025, developers launched over 150,000 new units. In 2026, approximately 65,000 new units are scheduled for delivery. In 2027, that number is projected to reach around 109,000, which would be the largest single year of new supply in the city's history. Nearly 45% of the under-construction stock is concentrated in 5 districts: Jumeirah Village Circle and Jumeirah Village Triangle, Dubai South, Mohammed bin Rashid City, Business Bay, and Dubai Land Residence Complex. 66% of that incoming inventory consists of studios and one-bedroom apartments. The supply profile is almost entirely built for the mid-tier professional population that is now the one most actively reassessing its presence in the city. Cinzia Bianco, a Persian Gulf expert at the European Council on Foreign Relations, put it precisely. She wrote that this was Dubai's ultimate nightmare, because its very essence depended on being a safe oasis in a troubled region. And then she added something that did not make as many headlines. There might be a way to be resilient, but there is no going back. That phrase deserves to sit alone for a moment. There is no going back. Not to the version of the story where Dubai's geographic position in a volatile neighborhood was irrelevant. Not to the version where stability was a permanent feature rather than a track record. Not to the version where a one-bedroom apartment at 8,700 dirhams per month with zero salary growth was somehow a sustainable proposition for the class of professional who built the city's day-to-day economy. The deeper structural issue is one that no amount of military interception can solve, and in which is that Dubai sold certainty. That was the real product. Not the weather, not the tax rate, not the skyline. Certainty. The guarantee that whatever was burning in the rest of the region would stay on the other side of the screen. And once certainty is gone, it cannot be relaunched with a press conference. There is also no pathway to permanence for most residents, which creates a structural ceiling on civic commitment. Under Article 8 of United Arab Emirates federal law, an expatriate can apply for citizenship after 30 years of residency, with an unblemished record and Arabic fluency. In practice, the path does not exist for the vast majority of the people who built and operate this city. The Wikipedia entry on expatriates in the United Arab Emirates notes that the UAE went from the 90th most expensive destination for expatriates in 2013 to the 31st in 2023. Thousands of middle-class workers left during that decade for that reason alone. The conflict added urgency to a departure dynamic that was already present. Even institutions within the establishment were sounding notes of concern before the attacks. The UBS bubble risk assessment was not a hostile analysis from outside critics. It was a sober financial instrument from a major global bank identifying risk in one of its own covered markets. Fitch Ratings was predicting a correction before any drone entered Emirati airspace. Dubai has survived real crises before. The 8.4% population decline in 2020 was followed by record-breaking numbers 2 years later. That resilience is documented and real and should not be dismissed. But what happened in late February and March 2026 is categorically different from a pandemic, because a pandemic carries no permanent reputational message. It says the world closed temporarily. The Iranian strikes carry a different message, which is Dubai is geographically inside the Middle East. That information cannot be undisclosed. The operational recovery will be faster than people expect. The airport will fully reopen. The hotel will be repaired. Businesses will reopen and hire again. That is not the hard part. The hard part is the perception timeline. And perception timelines in capital allocation, in talent decision-making, in the corporate location strategies of global banks and consulting firms move on timescales that are measured in years, not weeks. Whether Dubai can convert its golden visa program and long-term residency pathways into something that creates genuine civic permanence, whether it can absorb the coming supply wave in real estate while the demand side is reconsidering, whether the city's financial center can retain regional primacy as Riyadh and Doha and Singapore all sharpen their competing pitch, none of that is settled. What is settled is that the calculation is being repriced by individuals, by corporations, by capital. The escape has started, and the darkness is not the fires. It is the math that was already in motion before the first explosion lit the skyline. If you were living in Dubai when this happened, or if you were planning to move there, or if you had capital parked in that market, this is the question I want to ask you directly. Has the calculation changed for you? Not the emotion of it, the actual arithmetic. Rent, salary, security, permanence? Put it in the comments because the answer looks different depending on which of the three tiers you are in, and I want to hear all of them. And if this is the kind of analysis you are looking for, the kind that goes past the headline and into the structure underneath it, then you know what to do.